The actual boundaries of the town, whilst it was under siege, the boundaries of the siege were starting here in the northwest corner. It's basically a big square. In the northwest corner of the square was Greyfriars Church, and then the walls, kind of the ramparts of the siege of the town, went down there behind me, down Friar Street, all the way to this northeast corner of the Abbey Gardens, okay, or the Abbey area of Reading, which was still, the walls of the Abbey really were still quite in existence back then. And then from the northeast corner here in the Abbey, it went down south, down that way. It ran from the northeast corner of the Abbey, which is this down there, up here, which is what is now Sidmouth Street, further down there, and then further on up to Kendrick Road. And so the defences came up here, up this hill in a southerly direction on what is now Kendrick Road, and then turned right here, turned west to go over Catesgrove Hill. So we stood here on what is now Kendrick Road on the southeast tip of the Royalist defences, and they went over there to the southwest tip of the Royalist defences, which was Catesgrove Hill, which is where we're heading now. And then the ramparts, the walls of the defences of the Royalists carried on further west down that slope from the top of Catesgrove Hill, which is back that way, top of Catesgrove Hill, down there to the River Kennet, which is the bottom of the hill just there. So whilst we're here on Catesgrove Hill, I've often wondered whether the local people here know the history, know the relevance of Catesgrove Hill to the Civil War. So I think let's knock on the door, see what they know. Hi there, I'm just doing a little bit of filming here, and as a resident of Catesgrove Hill, do you know its significance in the Civil War and the history of the town?
Oh yes, of course, everyone here around here knows that. It was the southwest point with the Royalist defences.
Oh right, excellent, brilliant, thank you very much.
That's okay.
Have a good Sunday then, thank you, bye. I wonder if this is the same everywhere. Let's check another one. Yeah, let's try this one. Hi there, I'm just doing some filming in the area for a history channel. As a resident of Catesgrove Hill, do you know its significance in the Civil War or the Siege of Reading?
Oh yeah, everybody's always going on about that around here, everyone knows. It was the southwest tip of the Royalist defences.
Oh right, excellent. Well, thanks very much. Cheers then.
No worries, mate.
Thanks, bye. So yeah, people around here really seem to know their history on Catesgrove Hill. Let's try another door over here. Hi there, are you, as a resident of Catesgrove Hill, do you know the history of Catesgrove Hill and its relevance in the Civil War?
Of course, everyone around here knows that. It was the southwest point of the Royalist defences.
Excellent. Oh, thank you very much. Wow, brilliant. Thank you. Bye. And then the southern walls of the siege came down Catesgrove Hill, which is behind that building here, and down there to the banks of the River Kennet, just below us. Now, as you can probably hear, I'm stood here on one of Reading's most beautiful scenes, the vista of the quiet inner distribution road, and it's a really beautiful spot in Reading. And the reason I'm here is because it gives us a really good vantage point of seeing this part of the siege lines of the Siege of Reading. So we were just there, round about up there, up on Catesgrove Hill. Not sure if you can see it here, but the hill runs down to the river where we also passed through, and then you can see this kind of residential area over here. Now, that residential area behind me over there, back then that would have been meadowland, flooded in winter, but also kind of drained as well to make a good place to graze animals and things like that. Well, during the siege, they made sure that all of it was flooded, probably by knocking out some flood defences and things like that, so that all this area around here was all flooded so that the Parliamentary and army couldn't get in there. So we had walls on top of Catesgrove Hill running right down to the River Kennet. These meadows here will be flooded, and we'll take up the defences, the bulwarks up there on Castle Hill just behind us. And because the meadows down there between Catesgrove Hill and this Castle Hill were flooded, the ramparts started again here at a redoubt just up there on top of Castle Hill. Okay, and they went from here, Castle Hill, down there in that direction back towards the Grey Friar Redoubt, which is where we started. And you can see me behind me here, the Blargrave Arms. Now, why is this pub, the Blargrave Arms, quite important? Well, it's on Blargrave Street, and the reason Blargrave Street is called Blargrave Street is because of quite an important family in Reading's history, specifically to do with the Civil War. A man called Daniel Blargrave, part of the Blargrave family. He was the Member of Parliament for Reading. And because he was therefore also a supporter of the parliamentarian cause, he decided to give his family's manor over to the parliamentarian army to use as their base from which to attack the King's forces in Reading. And it's that Southcote Manor with the parliamentarian army's base that we're going to head to next. And we come here to the Southcote Manor, the big manor house of Daniel Blargrave, the MP for Reading at that time. Obviously he wasn't in Reading because it was controlled by the Royalists, and he gave his family seat, this Southcote Manor, to the parliamentarian general, the Earl of Essex, as a base from which to plan his attack and his siege of Reading. The Earl of Essex marched out from Windsor in April 1643 with about 16,000 infantry, cannons and cavalry to lay siege to the town of Reading. We stood here in this important centre of the parliamentarian cause, in the moat of the important Southcote Manor, the seat of the Blargrave family. And you can see that the people of Reading have really cherished the heritage of this great site and its key part in the Civil War and the siege of Reading, because this great manor that you can see before you, the moat, the lovely wall, has been commemorated with this lovely 1960s residential flat build. So it's a really beautiful kind of memento and reminder to the history of Reading and its place in the English Revolution, in the English Civil War. Perfect. What a perfect memory. So you can see from behind me, we're back at Caversham Bridge here, and after the Earl of Essex had set up his parliamentary base at Southcote Manor, the first thing he did was come around here to secure Caversham Bridge. And that's the first thing he did with his besieging army, to stop any reinforcements arriving from Oxford to reinforce the garrison of the town. Okay, once he'd done that, he sent a stern message to Sir Arthur Aston, the Royalist commander in charge of the town's garrison, telling them basically to surrender. Obviously, Arthur said, no, I'd rather starve or die in Reading, which is a great sentiment, true to my own heart, than let the enemy take control of it. And so the siege of Reading began. The first thing that the Earl of Essex did after that was to completely destroy this church spire just behind me, St Peter's Church, Caversham Church in those days, because Sir Arthur Aston had placed a Royalist cannon up on it. So the Earl of Essex got his huge amount of cannons and started smashing the hell out of that church spire and basically destroying it. There we go, not the first time a supposedly religious site has been destroyed and targeted in a time of war. So whilst this siege was going on and the cannons of Essex were bombarding the Royalist army in Reading, we come up to the next part of our story. But for this, I'm going to have to walk a little bit outside of Reading to the village of Sonning, because there's two things that Sonning is super famous for. The first one is its key role in the siege of Reading. That's the most famous thing about it. And also apparently one of my good friends, the famous actor George Clooney, lives there. So I've contacted him last week, and he's just going to be doing a little bit of a part in today's video, just to explain Sonning's relevance to the siege of Reading. So here we are in Sonning, and the thing is, George was really bugging me about being in this video, but I've got quite a tight filming schedule and I just couldn't find space for him, so we have to do it over the phone. But just to show you that we are already here. This is basically George Clooney's house here. You see the other bank on the other side of the river there, and that's his house. So we'll just give him a phone call and get him to be involved in the video that way.
Hello, Clooney residence.
Hi, it's Greg. Is George there?
Oh, hello. Yes, I'll just go and see if I can find him.
Thanks.
George! George, are you there? George, stop playing around with that coffee machine. There's someone here on the phone for you. Hi there, George Clooney, winner of 2 Academy Awards.
Hi, George Clooney, winner of 2 Academy Awards. It's Greg here.
Hi, Greg. How you doing?
Oh, very well, thanks. Can we do that thing that I was talking about?
Oh, sure, yeah. Signing was very important during the siege of Reading. When the Parliamentarian forces were laying siege to Reading, the Royalist forces in the town needed reinforcements. So luckily for the king managed to sneak 600 musketeers into Reading, through the walls of the siege, through the defences of the besieging forces, via Sonning. We don't know whether it was on foot or whether it was by boat, but somehow they managed to get some reinforcements of several hundred infantry soldiers into the town of Reading that was under siege from the Parliamentarian forces.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, George. That's really good.
Oh, you're welcome, Greg. You know, I love taking part in your channel.
Yeah, well, it's a real pleasure to have you.
Well, I think you're one of the best filmmakers out there.
Thanks.
Yeah, I also think you're one of the more handsome filmmakers out there and actors out there, much more handsome than me.
Getting a bit weird now, George.
Well, you know, I particularly like your eyes, your cheekbones, your face.
That's
your
enough.
Mouth.
That's enough. Yeah, and that's one of my things that I really like about the Siege of Reading, or one of the best things I think about it, that in this battle, in the middle of the siege, where everyone's supposed to be at the tip top of their organisational military game, the Parliamentarian army allow 600 musketeers to sneak in via Sonning. I mean, I'm not a military historian or a military expert, but I'm pretty sure on page 1 of the textbook of siege warfare is don't let anyone in or out. And it's not like 1, not like 2 or 3 different soldiers or spies that the Parliamentarians allow to slip through their siege lines. No, 600 musketeers get through from Sonning into Reading to help out, to reinforce the Royalist forces in the town. Okay, I wonder who was on duty. I wonder which sentry was falling asleep on the banks of the river Thames in Reading that allowed 600 musketeers to sneak through. I wonder what happened to him. Brilliant. And there you see behind us St Giles Church, which was also destroyed, or at least the spire was destroyed in the besieging cannon fire from the Parliamentarian forces. So having battered down the top of Caversham Church, the Royalist army decided to turn their sights on the town, and they just bombarded it, smashed it to bits. The spire of St Giles's Church was completely destroyed and knocked down, and various different buildings in the town were hit. Sir Arthur Aston was wounded by when a cannonball hit a wall, and a splinter of brick fell off and hit him in the face, and so he was then too wounded to carry on fighting in the siege. As a result, he had to hand over to one of his juniors, and this was going to have a big impact on the rest of the siege. The man who took over from him was a man called Colonel Richard Fielding, and he was about to get a piece of good news from a secret messenger from the Royalists in Oxford. So about this point during the battle, a messenger from the Royalist reinforcements that were arriving from Oxford managed to sneak through the siege lines that the Parliamentary army had laid out and get through to the defenders of the town in the Royalists in Reading. He managed to do that by swimming across the river around about here, and he brought this good news that reinforcements were on their way to the Royalist garrison of the town. However, on his way back, swimming back across the river, he was caught by the Parliamentarian forces and probably subjected to some hands-on interrogation. which then resulted in the Parliamentary army knowing that reinforcements were on the way. So they prepared themselves for the King and Prince Rupert and all these famous royalists that are on their way from Oxford to try and relieve the besieged forces in Reading. And so, fearing that they're about to lose the town of Reading, Charles I himself, with his army, and Prince Rupert, the great German prince and commander of the Royalist cavalry, marched down this road that I'm walking along now, through Caversham, aiming themselves at Caversham Bridge to take it back of the Parliamentarians and relieve the garrison of Reading. So, despite the fact it wasn't a surprise attack, Charles I and Rupert charged their infantry, their musketeers, onto this Caversham Bridge and managed to smash their way through the Parliamentarian defences defending the bridge. The problem is their forces were so concentrated on the bridge that it was really easy for the Parliamentarians to pour their musket and cannon fire onto the bridge and kill loads of royalists. It was at this point that it would have been perfect for Richard Fielding to bring his royalist troops out to help Charles I and Prince Rupert in their attack on the bridge, but unfortunately that was the exact point at which Richard Fielding decided to hang out a white flag of surrender over the town of Reading. Not really clear why he did this. Perhaps the siege in other parts of town had been too severe and the Parliamentarians were breaking through, but it basically screwed over the entire battle for the Royalists. It also started raining, typical weather, similar to today actually, and the Royalists, the King and Prince, got soaking wet, which is never a good way to fight a battle, and they had to retreat and accept the surrender of the town and retreat back to Nettlebed. Oh wow, what a great bridge to have a battle on. So now defeated, the Royalist forces made their way north under the truce, under the flag of surrender, and part of that surrender agreement with the Parliamentarian forces was that they would be kind of treated well. This was in the days before prisoner of war camps, so they were just kind of released. However, not without having to endure the occasional punch, verbal abuse, and having their weapons stolen off them by the victorious Parliamentarian soldiers. What happened after that was the Parliamentarian soldiers celebrated their victory by marching into the town and, by all accounts, breaking open all the pubs which had been locked up during the siege and getting incredibly drunk. Now this celebration and feasting lasted for several days until the Sabbath, the day of rest, the Sunday, because being Puritans, these Parliamentarian soldiers didn't want to, besmirch Sunday with alcohol and drinking and things like that. So yeah, not a great experience for the town even after the Parliamentarian soldiers won either. So what happened to everyone in the aftermath of this? Well, Sir Arthur Aston miraculously regained his ability to speak and command and was sent off to continue fighting in the Royalist army, but would eventually die in the famous siege of Drogheda, in which Cromwell basically completely destroyed and murdered a lot of people in the siege of Drogheda, and in which Sir Arthur Aston was also beaten to death with his own wooden leg. Did I mention he had a wooden leg? He had a wooden leg. In Ireland, that's where Sir Arthur Aston would die. What happened to everyone else? Prince Rupert, he would be exiled from England following his inability to defend Bristol from Parliamentarian attack over there, and Charles I would eventually, of course, be executed, put on trial for treason against the Commons of England, and executed and killed. One of the people who signed his death warrant was the MP for Reading, Daniel Blagrave. Now, when Cromwell's Commonwealth came to an end, when the English Republic came to an end, Daniel Blagrave would have to flee the country, but luckily for him, but unluckily for many other people, he'd been given land in Jamaica by Oliver Cromwell, a plantation on which he made a lot of money with slave labour. And that'll bring us onto our next topic of the history of Reading, and that is Reading's link to the Atlantic slave trade. So hope to see you guys soon, and hope you enjoy the video.